Hey guys, it's MB. This is my voice, and this is the very first time all of you are hearing my real voice because I have never used it before on YouTube until now. And originally, I know you've seen in my many posts from before that I was not comfortable using my real voice. Really, the main reason is because I know that normally I of course have a good voice, but on audio it just sounds terrible. And that might be the case on YouTube, but if y'all like my voice, thank you. If not, I'm sorry, I don't know how to change my voice. But as one of the 2 New Year's resolutions I've made is to be more authentic with myself, I'm just gonna stick with it. I'm just gonna stick with using my real voice. But again, if you like it, thank you. If not, then I'm sorry, but this is how I sound. Anyway, so yeah, I originally wasn't comfortable using my real voice. Of course, I know how it sound, but also external audio that isn't supposed to be in the video or the voice clip at all. So yeah, it's not like I can use my mic, or it's not like I can record my voice frequently. I mean, there's a lot of noise where I live. I just don't want it to interfere with when I record my voice. But anyway, aside from being uncomfortable from using my real voice, the other reason why I didn't use my real voice before is because I saw no reason to. Originally, before 2025, I got a mic that I'm using right now. I'm not sure if I'm using it properly. Hopefully I am. But I looked at all the instructions, but basically, for 2025 I got a new mic. However, I didn't use it until just recently because I didn't know what to use my real voice for on YouTube, because before this year, the only categories of content or niches as the fucking tutorialists have been calling it, even though they can just call it categories, it's really not fucking hard. The only reasons I could even see to use my real voice for were making like tutorial videos like everyone's been doing. Really what I mean by tutorials is like really anything, but in this case I'm referring to how to make a successful YouTube channel and all that. And about the tutorials I'll talk about them in a future video. But basically that's one of the only things I could have seen myself using my real voice on YouTube for. But also tech videos and godforsaken jujitsu videos. I really don't even want to get into that. What else? I was also gonna say like cooking videos, really just anything. But that anything, like those examples I just stated, I didn't want to use my real voice for them because they're not even the kind of content I want to make anyway. Like, I'm not a tech nerd or a tutorialist or a jujitsu-ist or whatever. But yeah, main point. As of 2025, earlier this year actually, really just now I finally found a reason to use my real voice on YouTube, but earlier this year it was because I discovered the one and only, the man himself, BigSoprano. And he uses his real voice all the time, and eventually it wasn't until just recently where I finally found a reason to use my real voice. So BigSoprano, if you're watching this, thank you very much. You've given me a reason to use the mic I'm using and my real voice on YouTube. So yeah, honestly, had it not been for him, I would not know what to use my mic for, or to use my real voice for on YouTube. So yeah, but I know I probably may not sound the best. Again, I don't even know if I'm using my mic properly. This is my very first time using my real voice on YouTube, so if I'm stammering and stuttering a lot, I'm sorry. It's just my first time using my real voice. But yeah, that'll do it for the video, so I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you all have a great day. Don't you just hate it when the person you've been friends with for a very long time, like years or even months, or even a very short time, like weeks or even just days, they were fake? And no, I don't mean fake as in they were imaginary even at the age of 20. No. I mean fake as in they never actually liked you or cared about you to begin with, and were just using you for their own personal boredom and or gain. It's exactly what I've been forced to put up with since 2022. And even before 2022, and even last year, 2024, I still had to do that, or I still had to put up with that, but 2022 is the year where it just got really, really, really bad. And how I know this is that it didn't happen at the very start, but in mid-2022, when I was literally just done with my junior year of high school, a girl who I was incredibly close with for a year just suddenly betrayed me when her boyfriend simply didn't want her to hang out with me anymore, when her boyfriend simply didn't want us to see each other anymore, and she sided with him even though she clearly knew that we hung out a lot before. Like, we hung out together a lot before, and just because her boyfriend wanted us to stop, she sided with him. And because we were incredibly close, because she literally befriended me first and wanted to talk to me outside of school and build up a connection with me, I was just distraught by the fact that she would just betray me like that. Like, even though we were just friends, I still felt betrayed because we were also... I felt like we were really close, but I guess I was wrong. Well, I guess the not surprising part is that our friendship did start to go downhill a couple months prior. I had to deal with constant betrayal again when my senior year of high school started, when I befriended countless people my age only for all of them to betray me. And how they betrayed me is that, like I said at the very beginning of the video, they manipulated, deceived, and used me for their own personal boredom and or gain. It's not the only thing they've done though. There's way more that adds to their, dare I say, sins. They've ghosted me and cut me off. Some people usually months after connecting with them. Some people immediately after connecting with them, despite clearly agreeing to exchange contact with me. Whenever I've always been kind to them and been the best support for them I could ever have been, they eventually just started treating me like shit for no reason. and chose to hate me for no reason. And I've even given these people second chances, but for the majority, they've always turned them down because they refuse to redeem themselves and believe that, like, they delude themselves with the lies on how they're the best person, how I'm bad, even though I'm innocent and they're the bad person. And whenever they have taken the second chances I've given them, they've still been horrible because they've always blown them and never actually learned from their past mistakes. Like, they thought they could deceive me again, but they never learned, and they never will. And these people were actually friends with my already enemies, and whenever I warned them or talked to them on how I was concerned that they were friends with my already enemies, they deluded me to believing, or they tried deluding me with bullshit lies on how they're still good inside or how they're just going through a tough time, when they knew damn well that they were pure evil and they were choosing to side with them. And there were people who I presumed were my closest friends who I actually addressed betrayals to, and they did not care for it. Like, they gave me the worst advice imaginable, which was also fake support, which was telling me to get over it, pretend they never hurt me, think of their side of the story, and let them get away with hurting me on purpose for fun with no consequences on their hands. And lastly, the closest people I've befriended betrayed me by defaming me for shit they clearly knew damn well I never even did, but chose to delude themselves and others into believing that I'm a bad person, even though I'm not. They've always created these absurd bullshit lies on how I did bad things, even though I never did any of those things they claimed I did and would never do them. They just chose to delude themselves and everyone with those bullshit lies anyway, and chose to destroy my reputation, which in turn, they've left me to rot with severe trauma, PTSD, and social and trust issues, which just fucking sucks. So we all know that first impressions are always a crucial deal to forming any kind of connection, like a friendship or a relationship. All that, first impressions are always very important to everyone and everything, and for everyone and everything. Unfortunately, not all of us have been lucky with being given good first impressions, and while they've been given a lot of poor first impressions from people and things, in today's story I'm going to elaborate much more on a certain time in my life when I was given one of the worst first impressions by one of my now former instructional lab teachers, all the way back in my senior year of high school. Basically, first, before I get into that, if you don't know what instructional lab is, it's basically a study hall, except it's required because not only is it on your schedule, but it's really because you're getting credits for it, and because you're getting credits for it, you have to attend, you can't just skip, so it's basically a study hall that's required. But anyway, during my senior year, October 2022, I was in instructional lab, just doing my own thing, and at first I actually had a different teacher who I got along pretty well, but in October, I transitioned to the one right next to the room I used to be in, for reasons unknown or unremembered. I don't know why I switched, but basically what happened is that my new instructional lab teacher called me into his room, and instead of, like, you know, reading me properly and whatnot. He didn't drag me in, but basically he had me go into his room and told me that we needed to talk, but the person who was there to talk to me was one of the staff members who worked at that school, who I have a really bad history with thanks to this. And he had me talk with him, and basically what happened is that the staff member was interrogating me for something I never even did, and the reason being because one of my now former friends fucking framed me for shit she knew damn well I never even did. What this staff member told me she framed me for, what he told me that she reported to him, is that he was apparently told by her that I had been harassing her even though I never did that. And I was telling the truth. But he wasn't convinced enough until I kept telling him that I never did any of that to her and I would never do that. And my fucking instructional lab teacher didn't do shit to, like, prove my innocence or make me feel, like, safe or any of that. So, yeah, basically he just had me talk with this dude and didn't even, like, he wasn't even nice to me. He was honestly just a fucking piece of shit. Like, he didn't care that, like, he knew I was innocent as well, but he just didn't fucking care. And he let this dude interrogate me for shit I never even did, and he also knew damn well that the piece of shit bitch who framed me was bad all along, but never did anything to help me, like, get her in trouble for defaming me, ruining my reputation. And that's not the only thing. That's not the only reason on why he gave me a poor first impression. The things that happened after were, of course, sometime after I started to get to know him more, but eventually, continuing from this incident, he eventually had me attend a meeting full of random people who I didn't fucking know, and they were basically all saying how I was, like, how I shouldn't have quote-unquote harassed this now former friend of mine, even though I never harassed her. She fucking framed me. And of course I did everything to prove my innocence, and the only reason they believed me is because I somehow managed to convince them that I was actually innocent. And they knew I was innocent, but they just didn't fucking care, and really, all that just left me to, all of that just left me with severe trust issues. Well, really, that was when my trust issues were only starting to just worsen. And, there are a couple more things he did that were just poor first impressions, I would say. I eventually reported this now former friend of mine to this very, staff member who fucking interrogated me, and I know I'm talking about the staff member now, not my instructional lab teacher, but I'll get to him in another story. This staff member, of course, deliberately and directly lied to me on how it pains him to see me so upset because he wants to see me happy, and really, I don't know if I either fell for it or if I saw through his lies, but I'm pretty sure I saw through his lies, but still. But like, where my instructional lab teacher comes in this is that he made me like, he forced me to talk with this dude even though I shouldn't have really had to do anything else because I already filed the complaint to the staff member and everything else should have been taken from there, but of course the school I went to is retarded dog shit. And really, the last thing I remember this dude doing, my former instructional lab teacher, is that nearing the end of my senior year, so in 2023, I filed a complaint about one of the texts to the principal, and it was the very next day, I believe. He received a call from the principal. He told me to go down, and I asked him why I had to go down, or what was the reason. He didn't know, which is honestly just retarded, because, like, he should know. I mean, like, he should know, and the principal should have also told him. And basically, when I got back from the principal, who of course didn't do shit about this ed tech, about, you know, penalizing him or even firing him after everything I wrote, my instructional lab teacher asked me if I was in trouble, and I told him no, and it was honestly just dumb of him to assume that I was in trouble just because I was called by the principal, or just because he received a call from the principal and I had to go down. And yeah, he's just not fucking good at his job. And to make matters even worse, I'm not even shitting you, the thrift store I work at, like, about 2 years later, after graduating high school, I was receiving donations from one of the customers, and one of the customers turned out to be that very dude, and he recognized me via memory, and he never apologized about what he put me through and what I had to go through, especially because of this now former friend of mine who is just a total bitch. So, yeah. I know this is just one big story, but that's really the most I have to say about poor first impressions that I've received, so yeah, I hope you all relate, and I hope you all have a great day. Don't you ever just wish you never had any enemies in your life, like you wish they never existed? And I do mean you wish they never physically existed, but I also mean you wish you never met them. You wish they were still your friends if they ever were your friends at one point. Since this year, every single day I've been wishing that every single person I've become enemies with, or that I've been enemies with for years, I wish they were never a part of my life. And there's a lot as to why I wish they never came in my life, because they're majorly responsible for shaping me to the person I am now, leaving me in the mess of rotting with trauma, trust issues, social issues, and PTSD for years. And for years, I've not been able to do anything to get out of that mess or improve, even at the least. And clearly talking to people who quote-unquote love me or care about me clearly doesn't help, because the only advice or support they ever give me is just get over it, let it go, pretend it never happened, and let them get away with hurting me. And that, of course, doesn't help, and it only makes things worse. And an example or examples of why I wish my enemies were never a part of my life is because ever since 2019, I know I talked about how betrayal got really bad in 2022, But 2019 is the year it first became a much more noticeable thing, and during then, it was mainly people who I was friends with, but also people who I was just simply nice to. The way they betrayed me is that whenever I did things like I was expressing my frustration, I made a tiny mistake, or I just wasn't doing my best, they started treating me like shit and they never apologized for it. And whenever I've addressed their betrayals to them, they said the very same thing the people who claim to care about me said, and that clearly proves that they not only do not regret betraying me, but they are glad to have done so, and they're glad to have hurt me. And honestly, this just got so bad that, like, addressing my hurt, I guess, like, basically addressing betrayal to that very person or to anyone else, it got so bad, the fake support that I've been getting got so bad that whenever I went to school, whenever I saw these people for a brief moment, I always just hoped to God that I was just seeing things, because that's how bad, like, that's how much I just didn't want to see these people anymore. But unfortunately, I kept seeing more of them, and others knew they were there too, so for once I honestly wish I was just hallucinating and they were just in my head. But yeah, that's basically, betrayal is one of the main reasons why I wish I just never had any enemies in my life, because they were once my friends, but not anymore. But anyway, that does it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you all have a great day. I feel like at this point in my life, I've sadly come to terms that with every single connection I make, it's always going to be toxic, because with every other, or mostly with every other connection I've made in the past with people my age, and even anyone, I've always been betrayed, defamed, deceived, manipulated, used, ghosted, and cut off. And it clearly does not help addressing betrayal to anyone, whether it's to the betrayer themselves or to anyone I feel like I should trust, because really, regardless of who I address it to, they always hear me loud and clear, but they always choose to ignore me. They never comply and never actually do anything to help me eliminate the troubling situation hurting me, or even at the very least, just improve. They clearly never do anything to actually help me, because they don't care. And betrayal is not the only thing I struggle to tell or to address to anyone. Betrayal is not the only thing I struggle addressing to people. It's literally anything that's bothering me or pissing me the fuck off. Like, whether it's people not cleaning up after themselves when they need to, people talking with their mouths full when they should not, all that, like, whatever it is someone is doing that they shouldn't be doing, whatever it is they're not doing they should be doing, whenever I address any of that to them, they always ignore me and they never comply. And I believe it's because whatever it is they're doing or not doing, they actually enjoy it because it's always benefiting them, and they don't care that it's hurting me, and they probably are enjoying seeing me in pain, or they're even at the very least they're enjoying the fact that I'm suffering because of what it is they're doing or not doing. And I just don't know what to do anymore. Hey everyone, it's MB. I hope you all are having a good day or night or whatever time it is for you. It's currently nighttime as of me making this voice clip. I was having a very good day actually until something came up a few hours ago. Anyway, I don't want to get too into that, but for this video I'm going to be talking about my experience with constantly being controlled and constantly feeling like I'm being controlled, but I guess they may mean the same thing. Yeah, I'm going to be talking about constantly being controlled. So, of course, I'm clearly a human, I'm a person, I deserve freedom, I deserve to have a free will, but that's not what the society I've lived in my whole life wanted to believe, and they've always had the very unhealthy and concerning obsession with using me as their little plaything for whatever sadistic reason. And there's so many times in my life I could pinpoint me being controlled and feeling controlled, but I don't want to make this video too long, so I'll just summarize it as much as I can, go into detail the most specific parts. So I guess for right now, I'll talk about YouTube, more really the company, on how they've been controlling me really since the very start of my content creation career, even though my channel is not yet monetized. So basically, in either very late August or very early September last year, when I was very new content creation, one of the videos I had uploaded, which was a very old Friday Night Funkin mod versus Mario Remastered, YouTube had copyright restricted it all because one of the songs was reminiscent to Nintendo's most iconic theme, and this was more of like a here and then occasional incident where YouTube would restrict my content. Very little was it because of age restriction. That was really only because it had the word fuck in the title, which it's just retarded to restrict content just for that, and it's even more retarded to age restrict content just because it has the word fuck in it, or any swear word, especially because that video is not made for children. But mostly YouTube has been restricting my content because of quote-unquote copyrighted material, even though I'm clearly not using any copyrighted material. But even if I am, I don't fucking care, because literally everyone uses that and YouTube never comes after them. But if they do, then, well, fuck YouTube. And it's clearly not it's not just YouTube that's doing this. It's also these companies that no one gives a shit about, and no one fucking cares about these companies, and yeah, they're just being retarded by allying with YouTube in restricting people's content for nothing, really. And basically, if people can use whatever, and YouTube and these retard companies don't go after them, then they shouldn't go after me either. And in October, November last year, it basically got way out of hand that I did constant research on answers to get rid of, disable YouTube's automated restriction check system. Unfortunately, I've come across no answers, and I've made a couple of posts asking you guys if there are any answers, or if there's some sort of workaround this, but unfortunately not even that's worked, and I may just not be finding out something that can't be accessed through normal means, so I would still appreciate the best, like, recommendations on how to get rid of this dictating system. And hopefully your answers are good. But with YouTube and these companies out of the way, I'm gonna start summarizing how people in my society have constantly controlled me and made me feel like I was always being controlled. So, they would always force me to do something I never wanted to do, never allowed me to do something I wanted to do, and it was extremely retarded because, especially because they likely didn't force anyone, they likely didn't enforce their policy onto anyone else, and whenever I disobeyed them either on accident or on purpose because I wasn't putting up with them, they would get fucking pissed off at me and lose their shit. But even if I did obey them or tried to as humanly and realistically as I could, their reactions wouldn't change. They'd still be mad, and they ended up mentally scarring me for life. And looking back now, I really wish I had not obeyed them, because it's likely I would have been mentally scarred now, but at least I would have been able to have more freedom and not listen to their bullshit rules. And if you thought that was bad, if you thought me being controlled by one society was bad, clearly the internet is unfortunately full of snowflakes and people who are extremely corrupt, especially talented people, because if they catch anyone doing anything that they don't like in the slightest, they will do to them what Tricky does to Hank. And this is further proven when someone downloads a tool or content, like a video or a game or mod or whatever, made by these kinds of people, especially talented people, and these corrupt dictators make the absolutely most absurd bullshit rules that if anyone breaks, they're coming after them and basically ending their lives. And if you thought being controlled by the internet was bad, which it is, wait till you hear about probably the worst thing I talk about, if it even exceeds everything I talk about. So I live in America, and don't get me wrong, I love America. However, one of the many things I really greatly dislike about the country is the Triple S, also known as the Selective Service System. And what it is, for those who don't know, is that it's a military agency that literally forces males who are 18 and older to register for their agency, really for no fucking reason. There are no drafts, and I understand that if there ever were to be one, which there won't, don't worry. Of course you would want to be prepared, but the US government, which of course runs this agency, clearly knows that there are people in the US who don't want to join the military, don't want to be enlisted in it, but they don't fucking care, and they force men 18 and up to register for this retarded system. And ever since I was forced to register for it, I've been in constant fear of a potential draft. I know there's not going to be one, but I've still been in constant fear if one ever were to happen, and it's all thanks to them for fucking ruining my young adult years, even though I technically won't be one until I'm 21. But that's really all I have for this video. I hope I explained it in the best way I could. I probably didn't, but I hope I, could. I tried, but I hope you all enjoyed, relate, and have a great day. Hey everyone, it's MB. This video is basically a direct follow-up from the very last video where I talked about my experience with being controlled. So in this video I'm going to talk about how I wish I had more control over my life. I'm not saying that every rule isn't fair, if nothing goes my way, my life is over. I'm not saying I'm an entitled piece of shit. I'm just saying, of course there are rules that make sense and you have to follow them because they make sense, but I wish people didn't constantly dictate my every move, and like I said before, I've been controlled in numerous ways, and constantly being controlled and feeling like I'm being controlled is one of the main reasons why I have been in the mess of constant anxiety of putting myself out there, leaving my comfort zone, and wanting to be accepted for me. I want people to accept me for who I am, but they never do. And people have always just hated me, constantly controlled me whenever I tried expressing my true inner feelings and desires and thoughts, of course without being too personal, wanting to expose horrible people who've gotten away with their wrongs for far too long, not wanting to remain under secretly corrupt people who somehow manage to be respected by everyone, and also expressing my complaints and criticisms to them and to other people. Like, whenever I've done any of that, and standing up to people, like whether they're my friends or my enemies or any higher-ups, like, whenever I've also trusted and socialized with others, I've always just been, like, it's never gone well, and I've always felt controlled because people would always lose it whenever I just put myself out there, and I don't know why. Like, I feel like they're being extremely biased and opinionated. Whenever other people have put themselves out there, they've always been respected, but whenever I have, people just not, they weren't having it. They basically wanted me to be under their control. Like, they've never wanted me to have any freedom, and it's really just sad, and I wish I wasn't afraid to push myself out of my comfort zone. Wish I wasn't afraid to call out bad people for their bullshit, like, snowflakes, talented people, Discord mods, this goes on. I wish I wasn't afraid to express my true feelings, thoughts, views, and desires, and complaints and criticisms to people without being belittled and bullied for it. I wish I wasn't afraid to trust people, because whenever I have trusted people, I've always been deceived and used and betrayed, especially by girls who I grew close with, who I'm not friends with anymore. And they're also, of course, responsible for the mess I have been in for years. I wish I wasn't afraid to socialize with people, and because I just want them to like me for me, and they don't see me as weird or awkward or creepy, and I just want people my age to talk to me and like me for me. I just wish I was much more confident. I wish I was much more confident to do all this, because even if I was still mentally scarred, I at least would have realized that I at least still had control over my life, and maybe that's all that matters, that I had control over my life. And again, I'm not saying I should do whatever the hell I want with no regard for others. Like, That's not all what I'm saying. In fact, really everyone who's controlled me has never had any regard for me. They've never taken into account on how I feel. They know I have feelings, they just never cared. They never wanted me to have feelings. They always wanted me to constantly do everything their way, even if it was unrealistic and inhuman, and I've just not had anyone to turn to, and it's really just sad. And I know it sounds impossible, but there just have to be other people out there who have been in the exact same position as me. Again, I know it probably sounds like absolute ludicrous, but it just has to be true. Probably, I don't know, but yeah, I just wish I wasn't afraid. I wish I was confident to take risks and not get in trouble for them, and not care what other people thought of me, because they're primarily the reason why I'm in this mess. I'm in the mess of constant anxiety of what others will think of me, and getting in trouble over nothing. Yeah. But anyway, that does it for this video. I probably didn't explain it the best again, but I tried. I hope you all enjoyed, relate, and have a great day. Hey guys, it's MB. If you've seen my past BigSoprano inspired videos where I've talked about times when I've been hurt, betrayed, controlled, all that, it's because everyone who's done that to me not only did so on purpose, but because they literally took pride and pleasure in psychologically, mentally, and emotionally abusing a young guy who never meant them any harm to begin with, and only wanted the best for them. And if I was disrespectful to them at first, I had every right to hate them in the first place, and they're the very reason why my life has been ruined for such a long time, as well as my mental state. They're the reason I've never been able to live the life I truly want to live, and they've made that their most notable achievements and their horrible excuses for their own lives. I honestly wish I could have called out these pieces of shit years and years ago, but I was always scared because I was always scared of conflict. I fear that I could have gotten in trouble, like in a lot of trouble, if I called them out, if I stood up to them. I was really scared that I was going to get in trouble, and I wish I was never scared. I wish they suffered the consequences they should have had after doing all these horrible things to me. And I know these people are literally the pure embodiment of bullies, narcissists, psychopaths, sociopaths, because they never show any regret and remorse. They never apologize. They expect me to act like nothing ever happened, and they refuse to redeem themselves and think having to redeem themselves is a literal joke because they know it only damages my mental well-being further. They know it's morally wrong to have dictated my every move, force me to live up to their expectations even if it's completely unrealistic and inhuman. They've never allowed me to have any freedom for myself and be myself, and they don't want me to take a stand because they know that it would finally allow me to break free from their sadistic control. Of course I should break free from their sadistic control. I shouldn't have to follow other people's bullshit, retarded rules and laws just for nothing more than their own happiness. I have feelings. I want to be happy, and I can name a whole faction or category of people who've intentionally made me suffer for more than 10 years. School, the internet, well, by the internet I mean snowflakes, talented people, even the fucking US government, the whole selective service system shit, and everyone my age who has always taken advantage of me, manipulated me, used me as their own human shield and sacrifices for their own wrongdoing. They've all made sure to make that their most notable achievement of their lives. They're most proud of ruining my life mental state and forcing me to live my life the way they want. I wish I was able to take a stand and put them in their place for all they've done to me. I wish I had support. I never had any real support because people who I should trust always discouraged me to stand up to these fucking retards, and they've always pushed me not to call them out, and that just proves that they're no different than the sadists. But that does it for this video. I really just had to get this out. I hope you all relate, and I hope you all have a great day or night. Hey guys, it's MB. If you saw my last video where I talked about every fucking retard who's proud of making growing up for me nothing but a living hell, one of the things I got into later in the video is how they expect me to act like nothing ever happened, because they know it only hurts me even more, and it clearly doesn't help addressing any of this to anyone who I should be able to turn to because they are no different than they are. And speaking of that, that's exactly what I'm going to talk about in this video. I'm going to talk about why forcing a victim to get over severe trauma and pretend to be fine actually makes things much worse. So first off, unless they're sadistic, the person forcing the victim to be fine is often deluded with the lie that it magically heals the victim from all of their trauma, but in reality it actually prevents healing and even closure. This is because when we don't address hurt to anyone we should be able to turn to, we're not actually allowing ourselves to process the emotions associated with it because we're just being ignored, which leads to unresolved trauma and lingering pain, which of course makes it difficult to move forward. And pretending to be fine can make a barrier to build healthy relationships in the future, but that's clearly because addressing hurt only destroys the healthy relationship, as past hurts unconsciously influence how we interact with others. Next up is how victims retain resentment towards their perpetrators, because suppressed emotions can manifest and turn into resentment, which impacts our overall well-being and relationships with anyone, whether it's the perpetrator or the person forcing the victim to be fine. And when we don't address hurt or when we're ignored, we clearly start to feel like a victim, in which if we are a victim of these horrible things, then we are, which leads to bitterness and negativity, again, whether it's to the perpetrator or anyone forcing the victim to be fine. And all this can even lead to harmful behavior, because by constantly being ignored and being forced to pretend to be fine, what the person forcing the victim to be fine is actually doing is that they're unknowingly causing the victim to start acting violent, even if the victim's acting violent secretly, because they clearly don't know, like they don't realize what they've caused the victim to do, but it's possible that they knew the victim was going to do that. They just couldn't care for it. The person forcing the victim to be fine was too lazy to support the victim. Of course, when victims engage in violent behavior, it does create a constant cycle of pain, and it causes the victim to want to get revenge. And of course, people who hurt them on purpose, especially the ones who have narcissistic tendencies. And next is that so I first said at the beginning that it prevents healing, which in turn, it prevents personal growth, because personal growth is crucial from being hurt. But if we're constantly being ignored and forced to be fine, then we're suppressing our emotions. This is literally what I've done. Like, I've constantly suppressed my emotions because no one cared for my side of the story. And even though I've developed self-awareness, I've never been able to express my true emotions to people, because if I do, then they don't care. They force me to pretend like I'm fine, and it's prevented me from setting healthy boundaries or making healthy relationships with anyone, because it makes me assume that everyone is going to not care about my issues. So yeah, I know I got a bit into myself for a bit, but it does apply for victims like me, of course. And lastly is that it damages relationships, and clearly this is because if you're constantly forcing a victim to pretend like they were never hurt, then you're only damaging your relationship with them. You're not actually helping them. You're only damaging your relationship with them. You're not actually helping them feel better. You don't want to have to put up with their hurt. Like, you don't want to have to put up with their trauma just because you're not bothered to help them. So in conclusion, forcing a victim to get over severe trauma and pretend like it never happened not only makes things worse, but the person doing that is only making themselves feel better. They're not actually helping the victim. They don't want to because they can't be bothered to actually... Like, they are extremely apathetic. They can't be bothered to hear their side of the story, or even feel what it was like, think what it was like to have gone through what they went through. So yeah, that does it for today's video. I hope I explained this the best way I could, and I hope you all have a great day. Hey guys, it's MB. If you've seen my past BigSoprano inspired videos where I've talked about times where I've been betrayed, ghosted, deceived, hurt, all that, I've even talked about it in my long community posts, in a fair amount of my long community posts. It's all given me really bad depression, and I really wanted to make a video on how that depression has made life a lot harder for me since 2022. So the reason I have depression, like I literally just said, I'm gonna get more into it. The reason I have depression, the reason it's been ruining my life since 2022, is because I've constantly been used, manipulated, deceived, defamed, hurt, ghosted, treated like absolute shit, outcasted, bullied, and taken advantage of by the trusted ones because of my kindness, particularly by girls my age. And speaking of girls my age, I've actually been trying to get a girlfriend since early 2022, but I've constantly failed because aside from them already being in their own relationships, they're delusional as fuck because they use fake love. And I want to say fake love is like mostly of everything I literally just said from above. And aside from all that, I've been given biased treatment, like incredibly unfair treatment, from being hovered over all the time to intentionally being neglected when I need real support. And I know this because, of course, like I talked about in my first BigSoprano inspired video, there was an ed tech in my economics class who constantly dictated my every move, and he hovered over me. Like, he mostly didn't directly hover over me, although there was one time where he actually did stand right behind me. He wouldn't fucking move until some time passed, and I was too scared to get him to leave me alone because I feared it would have gotten me in some kind of trouble. And mostly he hovered over me by, well, of course, dictating my every move, and he would sit in one spot, but he would always control me and no one else. And yeah, he's a retarded piece of shit, and the only reason I'm hoping he still works at that school is because that school that I went to where I met him, it's gonna fucking run itself right into the ground with how horribly I've been treated, with how horribly that school's treated me. It's just gonna run itself into the fucking ground. And speaking of my school, when I said I've been intentionally neglected for when I need real support, it's because whenever I've filed complaints about people who've been making life misery for me at school, former friends, I mean, and also, of course, adults, whenever I filed complaints about them to the office, like whether it's a guidance counselor or the fucking principal even, they've always defended the, I don't know the right word, like they've always defended the perpetrators, let's say, and they've always gaslit me, or they've always gaslit me into believing that I was being too forceful or whatever, but no, I know what I did. They're fucking horrible at their jobs, and they never actually did anything to help me, and I'm honestly hoping that the school they work at just runs itself into the ground from how horribly it's treated me. Like, in a future video I'll talk more about school stories, but aside from that, I've clearly been outcasted by my own generation, still from school, but even outside of school, like work, I want to say, also on the internet, and I've actually been around anyone who's outside my respective age range, and I'm fucking tired of it, and being around anyone who's not within my age range is detrimental to my mental well-being enough, and it's even more detrimental when adults and old people want to connect with me, talk with me, make conversation with me, socialize with me. Like, I'm not gonna do that, because, like, I'm still young, and I don't socialize with anyone who's under or over my age range. And I'm also too scared to push myself out of my comfort zone, because I talked about this in the community post. Whether it's working towards building a relationship and wanting to be accepted for being me, expressing my more truer inner feelings and desires, of course without getting too personal, wanting to expose horrible people who've gotten away with their wrongs for far too long, or even just wanting to call out people for shit they keep doing that I just can't tolerate, and not wanting to remain under secretly corrupt people who somehow manage to be respected by everyone. The list goes on. There's always some retarded bullshit reason set by whoever or whatever that always discourages me to overcome the fear of pushing myself out of my comfort zone, and it just leads to nothing but trouble. I also have severe commitment issues because I always feel like I'm trapped and controlled, which was proven to be true in September last year due to a beginner jiu-jitsu class I was forced to take, or convinced to take. And I think to top it all off, I just don't feel like doing anything, even when it's fun, like playing mods, because throughout the past year, whenever I've been making playthroughs, it's always felt like competition thanks to a retarded vidIQ video that I wish I never watched, and it's also because YouTube is retardedly brain dead because they're not promoting my content when they're supposed to be. The same exact principle applies for things that are actually good, like amazing music and animations that I like to listen to and watch, because I always feel unwanted jealousy and feeling of no talent, because the people who make these things are always able to do it with no issue, or even if it's super hard, they're at least able to grind so much time into it, and they always have their work skyrocket. whereas I barely feel like doing anything, and I do at times get myself to work, like I push myself to work, but whenever I finally get my stuff out there, it just always goes unnoticed, and I wish I never had any of these issues. My life would have been so much better. Life would have been a lot easier and more fun had I never had any of these issues. But that's gonna do it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you all have an MB day. Or would it be a BigSoprano day? I don't know. Hey everyone, it's MB. This video is not about me saying I'm too tired because I've been staying up too late and I just need to go to bed early. No. This video is about me being just tired because I'm tired of all of the shit I've had to go through since 2022, because even though 2019 was the worst year of my life, 2022 is when my social life just completely fell apart, and it all started with that girl I grew extremely close with the year prior. And our friendship was probably one of the best things in my life at the time, until 2022, when her love partner, her boyfriend, didn't want us seeing each other anymore, and she took his side and worked against me, and I was just distraught. I mean, I pretended not to be mad because I didn't want to get mad at her at the time, because I used to greatly care about her, but really since then, she just fucking destroyed me. Like, I felt shattered that she betrayed me like that she'd ever betray me like that. Especially because we grew so close, and, we did rekindle our friendship a year later, but, it didn't really last that long. It only lasted for like 2 or 3 weeks, and clearly rekindling our friendship was proven to be a big mistake because she hadn't learned anything from before, and it's just sad because I gave her another chance and she just blew it like that. And since the first time she betrayed me, I've constantly, because I was still trying to get a girlfriend, and I still am now, I tried connecting with so many girls my age in hopes. Well, of course, I started out as friends, but eventually I hoped to be able to get into a relationship with them, but unfortunately that failed because they betrayed me as well. They bit me in the back, and they also ghosted me, and I mean, this one wasn't much of an issue, I believe, till last year, but they told me that their schedules were packed, they were really busy with personal life, and even if it was true, looking back now, or at this point, I just see it as an excuse to not hang out with me, because all these girls, I don't know what it is with girls just hating me. Like, they're not telling me they're busy because they actually are. They're telling me they're busy because they intentionally deceive me. Like, they're deliberately playing mind games with me. Like, I don't know why. I don't know what it is I've done that's caused every girl in my life to treat me like horrible, to treat me like absolute shit, and with how much this has happened to me. I mean, guys have done this too, but it was mainly girls for some reason. Again, I don't know why, girls more specifically. But because of how much I've been bitten in the back, isolated, and left to rot with all this hurt, pain, it's just fucking, like, weighed down on me. I didn't start feeling like this immediately. It wasn't really until a year ago, like June 2024, when I actually started feeling the effects of being hurt on purpose, being isolated, all that shit. And I mean, before this year, I tried hiding it as much as I could, but that clearly didn't do anything, and that's because since 2022, June 15, 2022 up until December 19, 2024, I've constantly attempted to hide all of my struggles, be the perfect person I could be in my eyes while still being loyal to everyone else, and never get angry no matter the cost. And I know that was clearly psychologically unhealthy, and it was my fault for doing that, but a majority, like 25%, was my choice, and it was of course my fault, but the other 75% was not my choice, and it's actually because, everybody in my life has always expected everyone in my life has always expected me and forced me to be the very perfect person in their eyes, and even when I've tried doing that, even when I've tried pleasing them, they've still treated me like absolute shit. And clearly, like, even though I've put up with that persona for like 2.5 years, it still wasn't enough for everyone, and everyone still kept treating me like shit despite all my efforts to please them in every single way I could for them. And it's clearly not healthy for me to, like, do that, to bottle up my true feelings, to be perfect. And it's very ironic that I think it was those very people, if not then different people, but it was very ironic that I was told that, because even they proved to be no different than them. And even though I am much more authentic with myself, still I sometimes wish I never did that, and I just wish I never tried to be perfect just to please everyone. Hey everyone, it's MB. This video is actually about something completely different compared to the rest of the videos I've been making. Instead of talking about myself, I'm going to be talking about a content creator named Rings of Geonosis, who unfortunately is no longer on YouTube. And in case if you don't know who that is or who I'm talking about, Rings of Geonosis was a content creator who was most known for uploading video game soundtracks to his channel. He didn't upload extended versions of it, like 15 or 30-minute extensions or 1-hour extensions or whatever. He just uploaded video game soundtrack as a whole, and I knew him most for uploading the Rayman Raving Rabbids GBA soundtrack to his channel, and whenever I was hyper-fixated on it, or whenever I was like really into it enough, I would go to his channel and listen to the soundtrack, because honestly, that game just has some of the best music. And funnily enough, I'm actually playing the game Rayman Raving Rabbids GBA as I talk about him. But what I don't understand about the game is that it's so underrated as hell that no one uploads soundtrack. Like, no one else has uploaded music of it other than the boss theme, which is understandable because it's the only good one. It's really the only good boss theme in the entire Rayman GBA saga, because Rayman Advance is just Mr. Dark's theme for whatever reason. Rayman Hoodlum's Revenge doesn't really have one. Rayman 3 GBA does, but it's, I guess, okay, I'm not too sure, but Rayman Raving Rabbids GBA has just the best boss theme out of all of them, and the only other piece of music from that game another person has uploaded was an extension of the final boss theme, which, again, is the best final boss theme in the Rayman Raving Rabbids GBA saga, because, like I just said, because Rayman Advance, Home's Revenge, and 3GBA just, you know. Anyway, because that game just has some of the best soundtrack, he was the only person, he was really the only person who uploaded the rest of the soundtrack, I guess, like, at least for 2 minutes. Like, there is someone else who did, but, like, it wasn't, I guess, perfectly looped. But, unfortunately, the reason he's now gone is because his channel got terminated by YouTube, and my only plausibility for that is because of copyright infringement. And that's honestly just ludicrous to get terminated for, because I looked at his descriptions and he was clearly crediting the original composers, and he clearly didn't claim ownership for any of the music. And I'm not saying I don't support copyright infringement. Honestly, I actually do support copyright infringement. Like, normally I wouldn't, but with how ludicrous and BS all these rules and laws are getting for needing permission or whatever, I actually do support copyright infringement now, like how BigSoprano supports piracy. But yeah, like, so I'm not saying I don't support copyright infringement. I do support copyright infringement, and it's honestly just sad, but I mean, I'm not the one who's a corrupt piece of shit. And there was actually another creator named Rayhorn, I believe, who uploaded the exact same soundtrack, except his channel's gone too, but because he actually closed his account instead of getting terminated, which, even though that was his choice, still. That's all I really wanted to talk about, so that's just gonna do it for tonight's video, and I hope you all have a great night. Hey everyone, it's MD. This is something that I've talked about a little bit in one of my past BigSoprano inspired videos, but what I want to talk about today is my experience with women, or girls my age. So, growing up, every girl I've met and known has always hated me for whatever reason. Like, they'd always talk shit about me, or do everything they could to distance themselves from me and stay away from me as much as possible, no matter the cost. And I honestly don't know why. Girls didn't become a much more crucial part of my life until 2021, when I was 16. And it all started when a girl in one of my classes started making conversation with me. Like, she made the first move, and I started talking to her, and I didn't really know why she was talking to me, because I didn't do anything to get her to do so. And I was literally just minding my own business, but I'm glad she made the first move, because she was the very first girl who ever did that. And a month later, she actually wanted to talk to me more, which not only meant she wanted to be my friend, but also meant she wanted to talk to me outside of school. And she did this by sending me a friend request on Facebook when I used to use it at the time, which I accepted, and she was really happy to be able to talk to me, and she got really excited. Like, she'd get really excited during our first moments of our new profound friendship, and I was a little weirded out at first, only because again, this was a girl who was doing this to me, not a guy, but I eventually got accustomed to it, and throughout 2021, we grew extremely close, and that was one of the best moments of my life. However, the following year, 2022, when I was 17, about to be 18, our friendship not only went downhill, but it eventually ended because turns out her boyfriend, whom she was dating even when we were close, forced us to not be around each other anymore, and she clearly took his side, even though she didn't have to, she just wanted to, and I was just distraught because she was the very first girl who ever wanted to be my friend, and really from there on out, because girls were still a huge part of my life, and because I was actually determined to get a girlfriend, I constantly connected and tried to connect with girls my age during my senior year when I was 18, which technically worked only for all of them to bite me in the back at any given time, and that's just sad because I spent so much time building up a connection with these girls only for it all to be for nothing because they just used me. They never actually cared about me, and they fucking lied to me. Like, they're fucking liars who not only are responsible for, of course, giving me that piece of trauma, but they're actually responsible for my depression and anxiety, like the mess I've been in for a whole year at this point. Though I was still determined to get a girlfriend because I didn't just want to give up. So last year at my college, I asked girls my age if they wanted to exchange contacts, and they did, except they proved to be no different. Though instead of talking shit about me and making up false rumors about me, it was simply that they ghosted me, and that still hurt because I went out of my way to form a connection with them and ask them to exchange contacts, in which they did, and they still, like, even if they didn't talk shit about me, they still used me, like, they still deceived me, and I eventually got tired of having to go out in person just to do this, that I actually resorted to finding girls my age online to be able to connect with, but unfortunately, they proved to be no different as well, and I think it's just come to my attention that every girl I've known, met, and every girl I know and meet is just a fucking lying cunt piece of shit. And it's honestly very ironic they do this because I've seen and heard from girls that they want young, nice men their age to be their love partners, and I'm one of the very few guys in existence who actually wants to treat women with respect, but whenever guys like me actually go out of our way to do this, they call us out for being creeps and stalkers, yet they clearly date guys our age who are just horrible to women, and if they don't do that, then they date men who are more than 10 years older than them. But despite what I said, not every girl's like this. So, I mean, of course, there are women in my life who are respectable, like family members, of course, but there are like two girls my age I can actually think of who actually do care about me, and they are a girl who I've known since February, who I've talked to on Instagram since then, whose name I will not be saying because that's her information, and she also doesn't have her own channel. She doesn't make any content of her own, so it's also that it's her information, so I won't be saying her real name. And then the other is, of course, Cinnamon Sprinkles, because she's the only girl on YouTube I feel like I can actually call a friend, because she's actually helped me here and then. I mean, she's literally the only person I've collabed with, and she actually has come onto my channel and made, like, the first move, like, the first comment on, like, whether it's a video or a post, so, yeah. So, those two are the only girls in my life I feel as though still actually care about me. But that's that's all I have to say for this video. I really want to talk about my experience with women. I hope you all relate, and I hope you all have a great day. Hey everyone, it's MB. I've not talked about this too much, but for this video I'm going to list the biggest regrets of my life that I wish I could change. I don't want to make this too long, so I'm just going to cut to the chase. First regret I wish I could go back and change is voting. By voting, I mean politically voting. So for the voting for the 2022 Senate election and the 2024 presidential election. I do not see the purpose in voting for a Senate and a president or anything that has to do with politics, and it's honestly just a retarded waste of time, and I just wish I never voted. The only reason why I did is because I didn't want to, but I was pressured to vote, pushed to vote, and I eventually gave in. Looking back now, it wasn't worth it. It was never worth it. I really wish I was in the right mindset at the time. And real quick, speaking of politics, I used to be into them when I was younger only because I blindly allowed myself to be influenced by people's bullshit, retarded ideologies and beliefs, that I was only political for the sake of believing that those things were right, and looking back now, it was never worth it. So I wish I was never into politics, and I of course wish I never voted. Moving on to the next regret is allowing myself to blindly connect and befriend people completely unaware that they had ill intentions all along because they were revealed to have been using me all along and eventually betrayed me. Alongside this, I regret going to school and work only to do this, and I also regret not taking any risks to evade the consequences of taking a stand for myself. I'm not going to get too into this only because I actually have talked about it a lot in my past storytime videos, but I want to address this as one of my biggest regrets, and it's all thanks to these retards for making me not want to socialize and destroying my social life. Alongside this regret, I really wish I didn't allow these people to hurt me. I really wish I was able to get them to continue respecting and liking me and keep them in my life and keep them to be good. And I also wish that I got real support from people that I should be able to trust, because if I did, I would not be in this fucking mess. And because this is clearly connected to this regret, I really wish I was able to call out these people and other people as well for the retarded bullshit they pull off, because not only would I have been a lot more confident now, but I'd be able to put these fuckers right in their place. And in conclusion for this, I wish adults never took advantage of me because of my kindness and their age, and I also wish kids and people my age never took advantage of me as well, and never took advantage of my kindness. Moving on to another regret that probably better explains why I'm so mentally troubled is having the unrealistic perfect mindset, which is basically constantly trying to be flawless, not making any mistakes, containing my rage as much as possible, and constantly trying to please everyone because I'm still treated like shit and taken advantage of. And I've mainly put up with this persona, like this mask, since 2022, but I do feel like I've actually had this my whole life, and I don't know why I've had it my whole life. I don't know if it was something that I obtained from a very young age, or if it's natural. This would probably better explain why. Like, this is probably another reason why I'm so mentally troubled, because this mindset is one of the biggest factors as to why I'm in constant survival mode, rather than actually being able to live life the way I want, because one slip up and people come after me. Society never actually wanted me in their lives, and the only reason they do is just so they can control me. And I know I've talked about being controlled before, but I still feel like I should address that. Next up is me not creating a YouTube channel sooner. I mean, the channel itself I've had since 2016, but at the time it was just an account that I would use to like, comment, and subscribe on videos and channels that I like to watch. I didn't actually make any content of my own until a year ago. I do not know why I didn't make any content sooner, aside from not at all being interested in content creation until a year ago. But even then, I still question why I just didn't make content sooner, and I really wish I made content before 2024. Like, of course, I wouldn't have done it super early in my life, but I wish I started making content either 2021 or 2023, just sometime before 2024, because I feel like I would have had a much easier time gaining the following I need to be able to apply for monetization at this point. And lastly, doing meaningless research for things that never have answers or always have answers I'm not looking for. For a long time, I've looked up a lot of topics in hopes of finding the right answer, but I never find the right answer. An example of this is how to disable YouTube's automated check system. I've done so much research on that for the past year, but unfortunately I've not been able to find anything, and all that time researching was just wasteful to me. Anyway, that's it for this video, so I hope you all have an MB day. Greetings everybody, it's MB. For today's topics, I'm actually not going to be doing them by myself. I'm actually having a friend share his very side of the story alongside me, but we'll talk about my story first, then we'll get into his, so let's finally get into mine. So my experience with the Selective service is that they forced me to register for their agency against my will, and that's because the US government requires all 18-year-old male US citizens to register for the Selective service, and if they don't, they do to them what Tricky does to Hank in Madness Combat. And what I mean by that is, if 18-year-old males don't register for Selective service, then the US government basically fucking throws them into prison, and I'm pretty sure even charges them with fines up to $250,000 or some shit. Like, I'm not trying to say this is fake, like, this is real. Like, basically, if an 18-year-old US citizen doesn't register, then it's basically a felony in the US, just fucking ends their lives. The reason it's not good to be registered for this retarded agency is because the whole purpose of it is in case if there was like a draft, like a war that would cause like a national emergency, which there's not, don't worry, but in case that ever did happen, like a fucking World War III or whatever, it's so the US can deploy all these forcefully registered men and have them fight, and it's not because the US is secretly wanting to honor these men, they just want to use them because they don't actually care. Not only do the military use men registered for Selective service against their will, but they are actually proud of it and they fucking get off to that. Some things I want to say about Selective service is that, first off, they are of course extremely sexist, only requiring males to register and not females. 2, they require males within 18 to 25 to register. 3, they force males to register, yet they don't enlist them in the military. And I actually remember hearing something from, I don't even think I would call him a friend, but he's someone I used to know back in school. He actually wanted to enlist in the military, and that's fine, it's his choice. Despite being required to register for Selective service, the military didn't allow him to be enlisted, which makes zero fucking sense whatsoever. He clearly should be enlisted if he has to register. And of course, I literally just remembered this one. A while ago, I was actually doing some research while studying about Selective service more, and I found one of the most retarded things that anyone could ever think of. The US government decided that men who are to be forcefully drafted should also have the right to vote. I'm not joking. I actually came across that. It is fucking retarded. I really wish I never allowed myself to be registered for this agency. I could have actually prevented that, but I didn't. And it was a really stupid move for me to not do anything, and I don't know how to unregister. I've done so much research on how to, but have not been able to find any answers. And if there are any answers, then I cannot access them through normal means, and I don't know why. And on top of all this, the US military takes pleasure in making me suffer and trying to make me fail in life, and gets a sick kick out of using me as their own puppet. I know it sounds like I'm about to start crying, and I'm not trying to be dramatic. It's just, this agency has caused me a lot of pain since it first forced me to register, but now that I have talked about it enough, let's now finally move on to the piece of shit himself, Robert Card. For those who don't know, Robert Card's actually the one responsible for causing Lewiston mass shootings, because he literally shot the place, and he's also responsible for traumatizing everyone in Lewiston. I wasn't actually in Lewiston when he was doing all this, but I was certainly less than an hour away from Lewiston, and I was uncontrollably shaking with how scared I was, because he actually at one point escaped through a boat by stealing a boat, and had he still been out there, he could have ran to where I was, and I was just terrified. Once Robert Card's reign of terror finally ended, I was actually going to call him out for the fucking retard he is, but unfortunately I was discouraged to do so. Because I was discouraged, I did not do anything until today, and I really wish I did something much sooner, because I would have been a lot more confident now, and I certainly wouldn't be in the mess of trying to slowly work up my confidence only for all of it to be immediately shattered when something manages to damage it. Now that I have finally shared my experience with Selective Service and Robert Card, I would like to pass the mic on over to my loyal business partner, Sneezetooth.
Thank you for having me on here, MB. It was an honor to share my experience with this. Selective Service never emailed MB or sent him any mail. I don't think they've sent him any mail. Instead, how they had been harassing him is that they've forced him to register for them, or else they'd do to him what Tricky does to Hank, pulling the strings with him and plunging him into an endless cycle of anxiety of a potential draft. They do the same with every 18-year-old male as well. Selective Service doesn't pay at all. Instead, they only give out fake benefits to registries, like federal student aid, federal job training, federal employment, U.S. citizenship for immigrants, are a few of them. The whole Tricky and Hank thing is their hatred towards one another in Madness Combat. Another thing I should include is that the military has befriended children and hired pedos. My experience with it was that we do hate Robert Card for what he did. His reason of causing the Lewiston mass shooting is not an excuse, nor is it redeemable. He was a 40-year-old man who knew damn well what he did, and he didn't care. He got off to what he did. He knew everything he was doing. He didn't have to cause trauma at all. He traumatized me and you, and he's proud of it. He didn't kill himself out of regret, but rather as an escape from consequences. Had he fled, he would have basically done the unthinkable. And my experience with it is this. I had lived in the same town where this happened, and a lot of times Wikipedia will try to dumb it down and say it was because of brain trauma or a mental illness or something, but these shooters do know what they're doing, and sadly, they are just assholes. They want the people dead that they had planned on killing the entire time, and they plan on devastating everybody's lives and tearing us apart and traumatizing us forever. There's no excuse for what they do to us, and it scared me coming up there. I just moved out of Lewiston a couple of years ago. I haven't been back many times, but the shooting was just so often and the violence was so often. It was pretty dark and scary, and Robert only added to it and made it worse. So
thank you so much, Sneezetooth. That was amazing. You definitely went into more depth with the latter than I did. These two topics were honestly just some of the hardest because I've never talked about them before, and I was always really scared to because I constantly feared negative reactions from others, which I will make into a future video. But for now, that does it for this video. I hope you all stay safe, and I hope you all have a great day. Alright! Finally made it. The final Rayman Raving Rabbids GBA storytime video. As this is the final video for this game, I'm going to be talking about something that I should have addressed a long time ago. So back in late 2022, November to be exact, when I was a senior in high school, I befriended a girl I went to high school with, and at the time we were just talking with each other to get to know each other more. But because I was still deeply hurting from being betrayed by a retarded bitch who I thought I could trust, I actually stopped talking to her for a whole month because I had to recover from that. It wasn't until December when I started talking to her again and getting to know her more. And at the end of 2022 and from January to August of 2023, we talked a lot and we became extremely close. We always respected each other, supported, prioritized each other. We always understood each other too, helped each other out when we needed it. And I even told her that I was scared of her betraying me because I was betrayed a lot the past year. She assured me she'd always be there for me, we'd always be friends, as long as we always respected each other. But alas, that was soon revealed to be a lie, because in June, literally right after I graduated high school, because we were already friends and we were already really close, I wanted to be able to hang out with her, but she told me that she was going to be really busy, and even if that was true, a couple months later in August, literally 2 years ago, right after graduating high school, I assumed that no one there would remember me, because we both went to the same high school. I asked if she remembered me, and she said yes, and I was in shock because I didn't think she would. Just after that, she committed the unthinkable. She betrayed me, blocked me, said incredibly hurtful things about me behind my back, ruined my reputation, and defamed me by spreading false rumors about me stalking and harassing her, even though I never did so, and she knows damn well I never did so. She didn't do this out of spontaneous reaction. She knows exactly what she did, and she's proud of it. She used me and took advantage of my heart, just so she could play pretend and trick me into being my friend so she could use everyone else too. She ruined me. 2023, I had planned to make it my year. I had worked incredibly hard to try and make everything go the way I had planned, and she ruined it. Not only is she one of the many factors as to why 2023 was ruined for me, but she is actually indirectly responsible for everything that's happened to me last year. So she's not responsible for every single thing that happened to me in 2024. There are things that would have happened to me anyway, like having to vote for the 2024 presidential election, me having to get checked out for those 3 medical things, falling victim to hearing about controversies and Lunchly. That all would have happened anyway. But everything else though, my own generation outcasting me, 30-plus-year-old adults wanting to be my friend, being lonely, having severe depression, anxiety, PTSD, and trust issues, it's all her. So yes, all this stuff was really bad before. However, if we were still friends to this day, these things would not be this severe, and I probably wouldn't mind them this much because I know I'd always be able to have her to rely on and turn to in time of need. So therefore, this bitch is indirectly responsible for 90% of everything that I went through personally in 2024. And you know how I just said she played pretend and tricked me into being a friend just so she could use everyone else too? Yes, that actually happened. I'm apparently not her only victim of deception. She used all of her other friends too, and I'm not sure how they all reacted to the news, but I know that one of them, who apparently claimed to care about me as a person, unfriended her. Of course, rightfully so, because she is a traitor, but this person who claimed to care about me doesn't actually care about me, because when I needed this person's help to call out this bitch for what she's done, they refused to help me, and instead they advised me to get over it, pretend it never happened, and let her get away with all she's done. But now with all that out of the way, I finally done it. I finally finished Rayman Raving Rabbids GBA. I really hope you all enjoyed these playthroughs, the stories I've had to tell, and I hope you all have a spectaculous MB day.